Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of the SoCal Prep Report. Rich Estrella, along with Randy Rosenboom, Bob Gibson, and Dan DeForest. And Dan DeForest is in studio today with me, so I don't know what to think about that. Dan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great.
All right, man. Listen, man, we're into this thing now. There's Big Dan. Hey, we're into this thing now with the high school sports going on, and I was just talking to the guys. We were talking about how all the schools are filled right now. I don't care where you go. If everybody's practicing, you got soccer practicing, baseball's out there, softball's out there. They're trying to do games in between all this stuff. Football's practicing. Even the wrestlers are out there. So it's pretty nutty time right now. I never thought we'd see things like this, especially this late in the year. But everything's topsy-turvy. And, hey, Randy, let's go out with you. Let's start in L.A. this week. What do you got for us, man? What's been going on out in the L.A. City section as Randy Rosenblum sees it?
Well, as Randy Rosenblum sees it, first and foremost, the city champions, the last time there was prep football in the city, is Birmingham. And the Patriots are finally going to get started. They're playing a game with Calabasas. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jim Rose's football team performs this year. I would say going in, they are probably the best team in the city, although there's no city championship. But it will be interesting to see them. They have the best player in the city in Arliss Boardingham. He's a tight end on offense, although they can split him out. He's great on defense in the interior front off the edge. So waiting for Boardingham to perform is going to be a nice thing. They also have experience in the offensive line. So it should be a great Birmingham team. The other thing that's interesting about the city, baseball started, and Anthony Gioia of Banning is a left-handed pitcher who's really good. He's probably the best pitcher in the LA City section, and he won his first outing earlier in the week at Hamilton. So those are two storylines that I'm watching. Banning looking good early, very early in baseball with Gioia pitching, and the start for Birmingham to play city football. Now, El Camino played their second game. That's the other charter school. They improved after the shellacking at Agoura. They lost by 4 at Brentwood, which was a pretty nice showing for Jason Zabalik's team. So that was good to see the ECR improve. But those are the storylines early on in the city section.
Randy, it's really a trip, man, because the last time we were at anything with the city basically was baseball finals. That was 2 years ago, almost. So it's been a while, and that's what I mean by things are crazy right now.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. The one good thing about the baseball Banning getting that good start is they're going to have a city championship. There will be a tournament at the end of the season for the Birminghams and the El Camino Reals and the Chatsworths, who are so strong in city section baseball. What's interesting is Birmingham in baseball had won the last 3 LA City section championships. They were going for a 4-peat when things shut down.
Yep.
So they haven't been seen in a while. We're going to see how the Birmingham Patriot baseball team does, as again they'll be in search of a 4-peat, hopefully at Dodger Stadium down the road.
Yeah, and that's what I mentioned. The last time we did anything was at Dodger Stadium, and then we didn't realize when we came back there was going to be nothing else happening. Not for a while. But, things are getting better now. Like we say, everybody's out there. Bob, what have you been seeing around Orange County? Who you been talking to? What's your pulse right now, say?
Well, we talked a week ago about Orange High School. I really want to start with Orange because
Do it.
2 years ago, they got one step away from a CIF final. And, you thought, man, it's Orange, haven't really been relevant in a very long time. The Panthers program's been down. The athletics at Orange maybe, not the strongest over the past couple of decades. But I'll tell you what, an opening week win over Villa Park, and then last week they backed that up with a big win over La Mirada. Now, we know how good that La Mirada program's been for a long time now. So that is a big signature win for this Orange program, who just looks lights out right now. So, I'm real excited about what Orange is doing over there. And I got to talk about Servite, of course, too. I think that's probably maybe the top story in Orange County, because I think Servite is poised to, and I'm going to say it now, I think they're going to take over the Trinity League here. I know we're talking about Mater Dei. I know we're talking about St. John Bosco. But if you saw the way Servite dismantled, just made that Orange Lutheran. Now, Orange Lutheran's a pretty decent team. Not as far as Trinity League goes, but in the grand scheme, that's still a pretty good football team. And Servite just made them just look, like they weren't hardly on the field. Servite is that good this year. So I think Servite is really poised to break out this year. Noah Fafita, the senior quarterback is just, looking like, everything is hitting on all cylinders. And I think Servite's really poised to run the table here. And that would mean beating Bosco and beating Mater Dei. I think they got a real good chance to do it.
Well, I know that Servite had their way with Orange Lutheran this week, but let's be fair now. Orange Lutheran hasn't done anything. Scrimmage, hadn't played a game. Servite's already been out there, already has a game under their belt. And Dan, answer this, man. You're a coach. Isn't that a big advantage to already have a game under your belt and then coming in without playing at all, and especially under these circumstances? I would think that would be a big advantage.
Oh, absolutely. They know the patterns that they run. They're familiar with each other already from the years past. And that's why I thought at the beginning of the season that they were going to run the table and they were going to really make a difference. So this year they have really turned it on, and I think we're going to see a big win on Friday.
Well,
big upset.
Yeah, you never know, man. I mean, we're in interesting times right now. This season would be a lot more interesting to me if we could have had our standard season to see what would happen, to see if Servite's for real or not. I mean, you have a preseason, see how you do in pre-league. You're out there against probably some of the better schools in the area to see how you're doing. And then you get into the Trinity League, bash, because that's what they do to each other. They just cannibalize each other in the Trinity League. And usually it's Bosco and Mater Dei standing at the end. Somebody has to break the stranglehold. Could it be Servite? I don't know. It might be. But it just kind of sucks this year. The air's out of the balloon a little bit because there's no CIF playoffs. And that's tough.
I will say this, that the Servite game this week is a very intriguing matchup with St. John Bosco. You have an unbelievable passing game, and Bob mentioned Noah Fafita of Servite. He's got great credentials. He was probably the best quarterback returning in the Southern section. He has wonderful wide receivers. T-Mac McMillan, a 6'4", tremendous receiver on the outside. Fada's very good, and they run this fast tempo. On the flip side, St. John Bosco has, in my mind, one of the great rushing attacks in all of America. They have 3 premier running backs. They rushed for over 350 yards as a team last week, and they also can throw it. So can Servite slow down that rushing game? Can Bosco slow down the passing, the aerial assault of the Servite team? That makes for a very intriguing game. 2 different styles.
Well, don't forget, Servite wants to beat you with their defense, right? I mean, that's Servite's number one thing. We're going to outplay you on the defensive side, and they've got the horses to do it. So I think they think, defensively, they can slow down that Bosco offense. Now, can they do enough on offense? Because Bosco's no slouch either on the defensive side. So can they do enough on offense? This is a real test. This is the step up that we need to see Servite take, right? If they are for real, if they're going to get into that stratosphere, that you go into the conversation in the Trinity League, which would also put them in the conversation nationally. This is the kind of game they need to win, not just compete in. They need to win this football game. It's not enough just to compete with Bosco, which they did a year ago. Remember that 21-20 loss a year ago kind of raised some eyebrows in that one. But they got to win the game this year, not just compete in it.
I see it a little bit differently. I think there's going to be some scoring in that game. I think Servite can score, and I think they will move the football. I think the biggest question for Servite, and Bob, you're right, they're a terrific team on both sides of the ball, but I just got to see it for myself if they could slow down that Bosco offense with those running backs and 3 D1 guys in that offensive front. That, to me, is going to be the story. If Bosco can control the football and score off their running game, it's going to be tough for Servite.
Bosco's bigger up front, no doubt about it. Bosco's got the big guys up front, so I think you're right. They want to take that running game, and if they can use that running game to their advantage, that's going to keep the Servite offense off the field. So I agree with you 100% there. I think that's Bosco's path to victory. There is that running game. I agree.
Yeah, Bosco has 2 300-pound offensive linemen in Gibbs and Green. Both of them are going to wind up at USC, and they have another offensive lineman who's a D1 product. So that is just an insane offensive line at the high school level.
Well, let's face it, Mater Dei and Bosco probably have the 2 best offensive lines going anywhere, especially Mater Dei. So I'm not going to count those guys out. Although Mater Dei does have a freshman quarterback. He's like the 4th one in the history of that school, at least under Rollinson, that's started. So he's only going to get better, man. And those guys rail everybody. And the beauty for him is he gets to come in as a freshman, and he has plenty of time because his offensive line is stacked with All-Americans. Those guys are all going places. USC, they're going everywhere. So Mater Dei's loaded up front in the offensive line. And, line play wins games. We all know that. Whoever wins the line of scrimmage typically is going to win a football game.
Well, we saw JT Daniels. I mean, JT Daniels was never touched in all these years at Mater Dei. He had that great line in front of him the entire time, right?
Yep.
One guy went to UCLA, one guy went to Alabama. I mean, these guys were all D1 recruits, right? So, if you've got a clean pocket every time and you've got the talent level of a JT Daniels, only good things can happen for Mater Dei. So you're right. It starts up front, and if they can keep that going, and even Rollinson has complete confidence if he's got a kid that young, under center. So I think you're right. We haven't talked about Mater Dei yet, but they are still very much in the conversation.
Well, my point is
they're definitely in the conversation. You're talking about Elijah Brown, the freshman quarterback. He threw 3 touchdowns, and what I liked about it is the fact he didn't turn the ball over. So he was playing mistake-free football as a freshman on the varsity. That's very, very impressive.
So I guess we're all in agreement. It's going to be a triangle this year. It's not just going to be Mater Dei and Bosco at the top like it is nationally every year. Your guys are all saying that the tripod now is going to include Servite. I know there's a lot of hype, man, but I am skeptical that that team is just going to rail the Trinity League just like that in 1 year. I know Thomas has been there a couple years now and he's been building, but I'm just skeptical still because of these two mainstays. I mean, they know what they're doing, obviously. Mater Dei and Bosco. What, they've been sharing the not only the state title, but the national title for the last 4 or 5 years easily. Corona Centennial's been the only one to break through, and they're a public school. They have no business breaking through. They don't, and they're in the national top 10 conversation every year. Every year.
You're right. Because they get all the talent in the Inland Empire, right? All that talent ends up going to Centennial for the most part. Some of the other schools get a couple of guys, but all those guys want to go play for Matt Logan over at Centennial, right? That's if you grew up in that area, that's where you want to go play football. You want to put on that C on the side of your black uniforms. That's where you want to be. Same thing, but in Orange County, it's a little different, right? Kids have a choice now, right? I mean, Mater Dei was the pipeline for so long, but Troy Thomas has really turned that around once again. And just like he did before he left to go to Crespi, now he's back at Servite. Now he's got a chance to really get the right kids in there, and it hasn't taken him long at all to get that kind of kid that's that level of player to commit to Servite now and go play over there. And I think this really is the year Servite's going to get back on the map, and I think they're going to stay there for a long time.
Dan, what do you think about all this?
I think they'll stay there a long time.
Getting
back to Mater Dei for a moment, Bruce Rollinson has just been overboard on how great his defense is and the speed of the defense. So if the coach of the Monarchs is right on and he feels like this is one of his best defenses he's ever had, certainly Mater Dei might be the favorite. We're talking about Bosco and Servite, then Servite's going to have to play Mater Dei. And usually the team with the best defense wins. The other factor about Mater Dei is they have incentive. They have the bitter taste of losing that last game last year in the tournament to St. John Bosco. So Mater Dei is very much a part of this scenario.
Dan, what you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say there's another big game going on Friday. That's at Los Alamitos. Football's back in Los Alamitos. They're playing Edison. I think it's going to be a great game.
The Chargers.
Yeah.
Without Dan White at the helm.
I'm a Griffin. Yeah.
A Griffin.
Los Alamitos had a nice win over Corona Del Mar, right?
Two big wins, yeah. They had two big 60 points and 54.
Down a little bit from that team that won CIF title a year ago, and it was so good. You graduated a ton of players. But I think we've seen that's another one. Los Alamitos is another program that's kind of rebuilding itself slowly but surely. I think they're back on the map. I agree with you, Dan.
I agree.
Well, and they trailed in that game 14-0 and rallied back and stopped Corona Del Mar's 17-game winning streak. That was a great victory for that club, for Los Al.
I agree.
So let's go last ad Trinity League, and it seems to me like what's going to happen now, there's always been let's call it an arms race in the Trinity League for players. That's at every position. We're not talking just quarterback, every position. So now with Servite coming into the picture, obviously you guys, everybody's saying, they're going to compete, they're going to vie for the title this year in the Trinity League. It just means now there's a third team in there that's doing a hell of a lot of recruiting. It's going to up the ante in that league. Everybody's going to have to work harder now to keep players.
Don't forget, before this, Jay Serra had gotten a lot of those kids, right? A lot of those kids were going down to Jay Serra. They were the ones building, General Booty. Of course, we had his, we know him, his uncle Josh and his uncle JD. He's certainly got the pedigree. He has since left Jay Serra.
Everybody left Jay Serra. What are you talking about, Bob? They had a mass exodus of players.
That's my point. If you let me finish my point, that's
No.
it. He wasn't the only kid to leave. They all
Put it out
left,
front
right?
now.
Everybody left Jay Sarah. So I don't want to say the cupboard's bare at Jay Sarah. You know, there's still a lot of talent there, but it's certainly not the level of talent you need to compete with the Servites and the Modern Days and the Boscos. You know, that's a good football program, but it can't compete on that level right now. So, you know, that's a big job over there, you know, to get that program back up. And Orange Lutheran's another one. Orange Lutheran's been at the top before, and they're trying to get back into it. Santa Margarita with a new head football coach. You know, they're trying to get kids back in their program. I mean, it's literally it's a fight in Orange County for all these kids. I don't think there's enough to go around necessarily. And, you know, you've got a really good Santa Margarita program, and a really good Orange Lutheran program, and a really good J. Sarah program, all on the outside looking in, because modern-day Servite Bosco are just that much better.
Well, it's always been cyclical in the Division I anyway. You know, Modern Day has it for a while. Bosco is wouldn't want to call them the newcomer. They've been there a bit, but doesn't quite have the rich history, say, that maybe Modern Day did or does now. And so, you know, this thing is going to blow up. We'll see what happens. I just think that there's not enough room, man. I mean, everybody's going to vie for these top players. It's interesting to see how these guys are going to one up each other to keep it going. Let's face it.
You know, we've talked about it. The Trinity's a whole different animal, right? We've talked about this on the show before.
It's definitely the top league in the country. Everybody says it around the nation. Everybody.
Without a doubt. And, you know, I know Dan's going to speak to some Trinity basketball here in a little bit as well. You know, that's another place where, you know, the basketball talent is insane as well. But, you know, on the football side, you know, it's we're not talking about just here locally. We're talking about nationally. These are national teams, Modern Day and Bosco. Servite can certainly get into that conversation.
Yeah. Well, my point is, somebody always jumps up in that league, whether it's Santa Margarita, when Harvey Welch was there.
Yeah.
I don't. Was it Harry? She called him Harvey.
Harry Welch.
No, remember the sideline reporter? Ever since then, every time Bob talks about Harvey Welch, he calls him Harry, and vice versa.
He is Harry Welch. It is Harry Welch.
Like I said, or vice versa. It's never the same, Randy. Because the girl that was doing the championship game that year who did they have at quarterback, Bob? Remember that game? Darn it was 2011.
Johnny Football.
And she kept calling him Harvey Welch. And even when she interviewed, and Harry didn't say anything. He just let it go. So that's where we get that. That's an inside joke.
Harry Welch won state titles at 3 different schools. That's
he
pretty
did.
hard to do.
Yeah,
I think he's the only guy that's ever done that.
Margaret's and Santa Margarita.
He's got like 9 CIF championships, you know. So he's done really well. But man, but my point is that Santa Margarita was the toast of the town in that league for a while. Then the Orange Lutheran popped in. Modern Day got a stranglehold for a while. Bosco popped their head in. Servite was doing well for a little bit. So it is cyclical in there, but this is the longest that I've seen 2 teams going back and forth, Bosco, Modern Day. So maybe it is time for somebody to come in here and bust it up. Maybe Servite will do it. I just don't see it. That's it. So let's get off this for a second, and let's go over to Dan now and talk about basketball. Dan, of course, everybody's playing. Like I said, all the sports are going right now. Most of the country's already done with basketball, so there'll be no national champion coming out of Southern California, just like football. There'll be no football champion in the hunt. That's all been decided. That ship has sailed. But Dan was out to see the ladies from Korean Lutheran play the Lady Monarchs from Modern Day. And it's safe to say Modern Day hasn't given up much, Dan. It's one of the top teams in the country.
Oh, it was really a tough game. You know, they have some great seniors, you know, and that one going to Stanford, and you know they got lots of letters and recruits. So they played really hard. The Korean Lutheran team really, you know, worked as hard as they could, but they were big and they were fast and they were all over the court. And before you knew it, was 45-12, and really just scrapping to keep up. You know, so it was a good game, and they really tried hard. But
what are you going to do, Dan? It's Modern Day, man.
They were scoring in bunches. They shut down the inside. They shot 3-pointers from the outside, and they were, you know, all over the court, full court pressing the whole time, and
that's what they do, man. That's what they do,
brutal. It was a tough game.
Rotary has shown that they're the only program.
It's going to happen.
It comes up and competes with Modern Day, right? And this,
what's that? We got people talking over here on the other side, but go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say Rosary, the other team in the Trinity League that's really come up and won CIF titles and state titles recently. You know, that program over there has done super things. But again, it's modern day on another level. Kevin Kiernan, you won't find a better person, much less a better coach. I mean, he's an even better person than he's a coach, and he's a Hall of Fame coach over that modern day. And he's just built just a great group to meet him. He's one of the better players you're ever going to see in county, and that modern day program has continued to evolve year after year. And it's because Kevin Kiernan is just a tireless worker as the head coach. And I'm waiting to see, maybe it's a Cream Lutheran, maybe it's a school that comes up and is able to become that next big private school that can compete in Orange County. Everyone's kind of waiting for that to happen.
They're working hard. They're a young team, and they played hard. They were getting on the floor. They were, up and down the court. But, they are so deep over at Modern Day. They were 12 deep, 13 deep. They had a lot of players, and they were all really good. So it was a hard game. But, they just got to keep working, catch up. Rosary is a great program. They have a great coach over there.
Can you guys hear each other? Can you guys hear the words coming out of each other's mouths? Bob, can you hear Dan?
I can hear Dan, but there's some other voices coming across too. So
they're in your head. Tell them to shut up, man, because we're hearing them too, man. Are you out of your mind, John? Man, you got to be kidding me.
I've been hearing voices, Bob, Rich, and Dan. I've been hearing voices for probably 5-10 years now in my head.
That's all the noise in those headsets you're always wearing. You never take them off, Randy. They're hearing all these broadcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah, but at least I don't look like the Predator anymore.
Yeah. Hey, Randy, that first time around. COVID head. Hey, Randy, you said the city section's going to have playoffs this year in football, right?
No, that baseball, I said.
Is it baseball you were talking about? So when's the city section?
I will say this about the city sections. They start a little bit later for the most part, other than the charter schools. The 9th of April is when it's really going to kick off for the LA City section. And I'm anxious the first game, a San Pedro Dorsey game, is going to be a terrific opener. Stephon Johnson taking over the program, great former player at Dorsey, going up against a very good Pirate team that was the number 1 seeded team in the section before they lost to Birmingham in the playoffs a year and a half ago. But the one thing that stands out about the LA City section coming up is the last 2 weeks, the southern section will be complete. They finish the weekend of April 16th and 17th. Well, the city section goes to the 23rd and the 30th. So for 2 weeks, they're going to have the nation's only prep football in the LA City section. Hopefully they'll get the PR that they deserve. People will realize there's some good football that'll be played in the LA City section.
I give it to you. Hear, 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 hear.
Hey.
All right, guys. Hey, let's get off the beaten path for a minute. We got about, 5 or 6 minutes left here. Elgin Baylor passed away this week, guys. We can't let it go. He helped build basketball in Los Angeles. I can't lie about it. He was a Minneapolis Laker, came here with West and Jerry West and later on Wilt Chamberlain, and they won a title here in LA and brought basketball that's prominent. But Elgin Baylor was probably one of the most underrated forwards of all time when you talk about the best players of all time. Baylor put a lot of these kids today to shame. They have no idea what work ethic is unless you're this guy right here. This guy was 6'5", and he played like a 7-foot forward. I mean, he could hang in the air a long time. You think Jordan has hang time? This guy invented hang time. Elgin Baylor. Your thoughts, Randy, on Elgin?
Well, he was called Mr. Hang Time, and really one of the great people. Obviously, he went on to work in the Clippers front office for 2 decades, but as a basketball player, he was as good as anyone. I think the only reason he's, quote, underrated is because you didn't have social media, you didn't have the national TV coverage we do today. If you would have put Baylor in today's media, he would be amongst the elite. But he played back in an era in the 60s that most of the people don't remember. But he was putting up 60-point playoff games and a 70-point regular season game. He had a great perimeter game. He could handle the ball. He was unselfish. And at 6'5", he was a phenomenal rebounder. Rebounders know how to rebound, and he was very good at doing that, even though he was 6'5". Elgin Baylor was as good as anyone that ever laced it up.
Randy, I think Elgin Baylor still holds the single game record in the NBA Finals. I think he had 69 points one year in an NBA playoff game, which is huge if you think about it, especially when you have Wilt Chamberlain on your team and Jerry West. And no three-point line. No three-point line back there.
he's basically unstoppable because he can handle it. He could go above you. He could take it to the basket. And with his ability to hang in the air, he could deceive the defense. He was just a tremendous player. It's really too bad that this generation doesn't realize how good Elgin was.
Elgin can get up in the air and have a Laker dog, and everybody be coming down. You know, they go up with them, and they'd be coming down, and it's to be sitting there eating that Laker dog and then slamming it home. Elgin was a freak, a real freak, before Dr. J became the freak. Anyways, Bob, your thoughts on Elgin? I know you hated him because he was a Laker.
Part of my argument of why Magic was the greatest player in NBA history was because I said we've never seen another Magic Johnson, but we have seen him under Michael Jordan before, and that was Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor played a lot like Michael Jordan, above the rim. You think Jordan was above the rim? Elgin was above the rim way before Jordan ever invented it, or thought he invented it. Everyone thought Jordan invented above the rim. Baylor was way above the rim before him. So
all the time,
we've seen that kind of player before. And Elgin Baylor, he was that great of a player. Just unique. And then I think a lot of people remember him as the GM of the Clippers all those years. And as bad as the Clippers were, that's not the legacy you want to remember for Elgin Baylor. You want to remember him as a player and how great he was, and he certainly was great.
Hey, it wasn't. Don't blame Elgin for that, because if Elgin had Jerry Buss as a GM, he would have done a lot better. But Sterling, come on.
It wasn't Elgin's fault that the Clippers were bad all those years. We know whose fault it was. It wasn't Elgin Baylor.
Dan, what do you got to say about this?
He couldn't even pick the players he wanted to pick.
Right.
Elgin was definitely a complete player, both sides of the court, and definitely assists, rebounds, points. He could do it all. That was a great Laker.
Hang time master. All right, fellas. Well, look, we got to get back out and pound the pavement this week, see what's going on, because this season's going to be over quick, and there's a lot to cover. I might get out and do some wrestling stories next week, see what the grapplers are doing. I know Dan's going to be handling some basketball. Bob's going to be jumping on baseball. That's his forte. And Randy will just be sunning, relaxing by the pool in the valley, maybe calling a few of his boys to see what's going on. That's about it, Randy. That's how Randy does his work.
I talked to my friend Will Reinhart, the volleyball coach at Verdugo Hills yesterday, and he's excited because he's coaching both the boys and the girls, and they're going at the same time, and that'll start in early April as well. So we're going to get girls volleyball going, and Bob knows I love volleyball, so it's going to be fun to watch all the city teams and Southern Section teams go in volleyball as well.
And then we got to research something.
The unique thing that happened today: opening day starters for the Cardinals, like all three Harvard Westlake guys.
You see that? Look at
Max Reed,
man.
Lucas Giolito, and Jack over there with the Cardinals. All Harvard Westlake guys, and they're all going to start the season for their team. I don't think that's ever happened before.
They were in that rotation at Harvard Westlake all at the same time. They won one CIF Southern Section game in the championships, in the finals, and that was Jack Flaherty that pitched the shutout. But that's unbelievable to have three all-stars opening up for three different teams off of one high school pitching staff for LaCour's team out at Harvard Westlake.
How cool is that for Matt LaCour, right? How cool is that for him? That's really something.
Yep.
All right, guys. You guys want to clear any final thoughts with anybody? We cleared out with Elgin. You guys got any final thoughts? Because we got to go.
That's
now.
It. I'm good. Baseball, baby. We're covering baseball. We're back in it.
Love it.
I need somebody to find out if the athletes are now allowed to play in two different sports this year, just for this truncated season. This little window from March to the end of the year.
Yeah, they are if you're a charter school in the city section, you can't play multiple sports.
And you should be able to in this climate. These guys are young. We all did it when we were young. We played multiple sports during the same season.
Absolutely.
Just don't be lifting weights. Just play your sports. Good. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. On behalf of Rosenblum, Gibson, DeForest, I'm Richard Strassen. So long from your friends here at the SoCal Prep Report. We'll see y'all next week. Have a good one. Until later.